Minecraft trial chambers are a new and fun structure where you endure trials full of countless mobs to earn rewards. This video is the ultimate Minecraft trial chamber guide for 1.21. First, let's start with how to find trial chamber. Trial chambers are underground structures that commonly generate under y equals 0. This means you'll have to go quite deep underground to find one. But instead of just caving and praying that you find one, I'm going to show you an even better method, and the key is this guy, the cartographer villager. This guy will give you a map that leads straight to a trial chamber nearby. The only thing is, you need to level him up before you can get the map. To level up the villager, you need to trade with him a few times. So if we just do the emeralds for paper trade, as you can see, this bar is now going up. Once it reaches to full, he is now an apprentice. As you can see, his badge has changed. Now he offers some new stuff. However, these villagers only give the trial chamber maps at level 3, so we need to trade with him and level him up again. Now he is a journeyman with a gold badge, and there is the trade for the Trial Explorer map. Trade for it, follow it to the spot which is marked, dig down there, and you have now found the trial chambers in Minecraft. Now, as soon as you go find yourself a trial chamber, you might be tempted to go in right away, but you need to stop yourself. Remember, these structures are no cakewalk. You will encounter many mobs and hostilities here, so you'll need to gear up to prepare. For beginners, I'd recommend at least a full set of diamond armor, preferably with enchantments like protection, projectile protection, unbreaking, and feather falling for your boots. Bring a sword or axe for melee, also preferably enchanted, and along with that, bring some of these items, most notably golden apples, around 5 to 10. These can allow you to heal when you're in a tough spot. A shield, this is super important when dealing with a bunch of ranged mobs. Milk buckets, these can help you get rid of negative effects you might be hit with in the chamber. A bow with at least a stack of arrows, this can be quite useful for the bigger rooms where you need to pick off a bunch of mobs from afar. And finally, a lava bucket. These can be quite useful for killing off crowds of mobs. If you're a more experienced player, make sure to bring everything I just mentioned, but you can survive with just iron armor depending on the difficulty. Of course, definitely not on hardcore mode though. Now that we've discussed that, let's quickly understand the layout of the trial chambers and the 3 different types of areas you can expect from them. You have the entrance area. This room has a tree and a couple of chests with some loot in them. There will be a vault as well. We'll talk about this guy later. He is awesome. The corridors of the trial chamber is a multi-level hallway that will have decorated pots, barrels, chests, and some of them spawners. Some chests besides the entrance chest have no loot. However, you can find loot in barrels, some miscellaneous items, and by breaking decorated pots. Decorated pots usually have valuable materials inside, and you can also get the new creator music disc and a trial key as well if you're lucky. And finally, we have the actual rooms of the trial chamber. These rooms come in different shapes and sizes, and they will have trial spawners, vaults, along with dispensers that have buttons which can contain fireballs, water, potions, and more. Throughout the chamber are also various safe rooms and other small hallways with chests and vaults. Chests here usually have loot, and safe rooms usually have beds and a barrel with some extra loot. Throughout hallways and rooms, there will also be copper bulbs which you can wax with your axe to light up the trial chamber as you go. Now let's study up on the trial spawner themselves. Obviously, one of the most prevalent things you will find in the trial chamber. These spawners will spawn mobs as soon as it detects any player within 14 blocks of it. You'll know it's activated when it lights up and starts spewing out orange flames from the top. The amount of total mobs this spawner spawns is divided into 2 categories. One, the simultaneous mob count, the max number of mobs you'll be fighting at one time, and then the total mob count, how many mobs the spawner will spawn in total before it is finished. These numbers vary depending on the type of mob. However, for one player, the default simultaneous mob count is 2 per spawner, and the total mob count is 6 per spawner. Again, these are the default counts, doesn't necessarily mean every spawner will follow these exact numbers, but if you're really curious, here's the complete list of counts for every type of mob in the chamber. Each additional player added on top will also increase both the simultaneous and total mob count by a certain value, which you can see in this chart. Now, from a glance, this doesn't seem super bad, but when you take into account that each room usually has 3 or 4 spawners, that's when things can get a bit crazy, hence why you need to gear up. Another important piece of information is that you can tell what type of mob will spawn from any given spawner based on the blocks that surround the spawner. Here's a list of all the different formations you can find and the mobs they will spawn. Keep in mind, you will always face 4 types of mobs per trial chamber: breeze mobs, melee mobs, small melee mobs, and ranged mobs. If you remember that chart from earlier, you can see the mobs are divided into categories. Basically, the game will randomly select a mob from one of these categories along with the breeze, and those are the only mobs you will face in the chamber. After you completely exhaust a trial spawner, it will eject some loot for you. Here are all the items it can give, along with a trial key, and afterwards the trial spawner will go into a 30-minute cooldown. One of the mobs the trial spawner can spawn is the new breeze. This mob's main attack is a wind charge, which can knock you back and propel you into the air. It doesn't do that much damage by itself, however these bursts of wind can activate any dispensers in the room, and like I said, dispensers can contain splash potions, fireballs, and a whole bunch of annoying things, so definitely be careful when dealing with the breeze. So I don't know if you guys remember this, but I mentioned that both trial spawners and decorated pots can give you trial keys. What exactly are these keys? Well, they're supposed to be used on the new vault blocks. Using the trial key on any vault in the chamber will cause it to eject even more loot for you. Here is the complete list. There are some goodies in here, but keep in mind, once a player unlocks a vault, that specific player cannot use the same vault again, even if they have another key. And finally, we get to the most interesting part of the trial chambers: ominous trials. Going to a pillager outpost and killing a pillager captain will now give you an ominous bottle. Drinking this bottle will give you the bad omen effect, and walking near a trial spawner with this bad omen will give you an extra trial omen effect. The duration of this extra effect is dependent on the level of bad omen, which is completely random. After you get trial omen and go near a spawner, the spawners will emit blue flames, activating an ominous trial. These are more deadly versions of regular trials, with mobs that have more armor, better weapons, and an overall higher amount of mobs. A feature of this trial is potion effects and tipped arrows that can spawn near you and the mobs. Some of these are really random, but some help the player. If you want to find out more about various effects, I have a video on that here. With ominous trials, there is no choice. You need at least a full set of diamond armor, probably with enchantments, along with extra healing items, especially if you're on hardcore. Just like regular trials, finishing an ominous trial will reward you with some loot. Here is the complete list. Among this loot, there is the ominous trial key, and these keys can only be used on ominous vaults. Ominous vaults can be found rarely in the trial chamber in difficult to reach areas like ledges. Using the ominous key on these vaults can give you some OP stuff, most notably the heavy core, which can be combined with a breeze rod to craft the new mace weapon. Just like regular vaults though, ominous vaults can only be opened once per player. If you guys did enjoy this video, then please consider dropping a like and a sub, and as always, I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.